mainly car and home insurance, home and car insurance. These carriers have been dropping coverage for their customers, or in some cases, just not renewing policies once they're up and not accepting new customers for insurance. And this is a pretty huge story because this is not just your typical, not your typical, but these companies are major players in the game. Voice. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the People's Voice. I am Trey Evans and I am the People's Voice. Thank you very much for checking out the podcast again this week. As always, it is greatly appreciated. As always, we appreciate everyone who has taken the opportunity to listen to the podcast today. We do understand that you can be utilizing your time to do something else. And so I'm appreciative that you've taken some time to listen to us here for the next few minutes, 20, maybe 30, maybe 40, depending on the topic. But thank you. And as always, if you enjoy the podcast and you feel that this information is of value, please feel free to share the podcast with your network, community, and friends. You can also subscribe to the podcast, and that way you will be notified when we drop a new episode. Each episode is dropped every Friday on all podcast platforms, and we also put out a video on YouTube, which premieres at 3 p.m. every Friday on YouTube. That's at my channel. I am Trey Evans. So thank you. Much appreciated. So today, what I want to talk about is insurance companies, and specifically insurance companies dropping coverage on their customers. There has been a tremendous amount of change in a lot of areas of the country, but specifically in California and in Florida, with insurance carriers. These are people that provide home insurance, car insurance, and other insurances as well. But mainly car and home insurance, home and car insurance. These carriers have been dropping coverage for their customers, or in some cases, just not renewing policies once they're up and not accepting new customers for insurance. And this is a pretty huge story because this is not just your typical, not your typical, but these companies are major players in the game. These are not, small mom and pop operation insurance companies, right? This is not the insurance company that, is also the restaurant in the local town and can provide insurance. We're talking about major public companies, public insurance companies that are dropping coverage on their customers because of a number of factors. So I want to talk about that today because, like I said, currently the majority, at least from what I've seen in the reporting, a lot of this has been occurring in California and Florida, at least on the homeowner side, and I'll get into the car side as well. But this clearly has a ripple effect and will affect, many people going forward. Because, when you get insurance, especially you're paying money every year for your premium, every month, however you have your, insurance, paid out, you're not expecting your insurance company to just drop you. Of course, unless you've done something that's worth dropping and I'll get into that. But so that's what I want to talk about today. Insurance companies dropping coverage on homeowners insurance and also auto insurance. So I think a great place to start first is to define what insurance is, right? Because sometimes you're just paying, and it's like, well, what am I paying for? Why am I paying it? What is insurance, right? Let's start with that. So I went and got a definition for that. And I've gotten away from that a little bit in previous podcasts. I used to always start with a definition, but the last few episodes haven't really required definitions for some of these things. But I thought in this case I would start with a definition just to, as always, give a foundation. So, what is insurance? Okay. So insurance, and I'm reading here from investopedia.com, and I always try to look for the most simplest definitions, because sometimes when you research this, there are deep, just complicated definitions. I'm like, just get to the point. So what is insurance? At its basic, insurance is a contract represented by a policy, okay, in which a policy holder, that would be you, the customer, the policy holder, receives financial protection or reimbursement against losses from the insurance company. So that's the basics of what insurance is, right? It's a policy that you contract between the insurance company, you the customer, I'm saying, the policy holder, and you receive or are supposed to receive financial protection for the policy. You pay for the policy, something goes wrong with your house or your car, you're supposed to be covered. Obviously, coverage depends on what type of level of coverage you have in your policy. It goes on to say that the company, this is the insurance company, pools clients' risk to make payments more affordable for the insured. And that's a key line there. And this actually is going to tie into when I start talking about why these insurance companies are dropping coverage. So I'm going to read that line again. Again, I'm defining insurance. The company, this is the insurance company, pools clients' risk to make payments more affordable for the insured. So essentially, what happens is that they take that money and that everyone is giving in. They calculate what the potential risks are. And that money is then allocated towards whoever comes up with the issue, right? So if there are 10 people paying into an insurance, that money's only paid out when 1 out of the 10 has an issue. The money is there because they've pooled all that money from all of these customers. So, but that's what insurance is, right? Insurance is a contract represented by a policy in which a policyholder receives financial protection or reimbursement against losses from an insurance company. So that's a definition from Investopedia. Okay, so why am I giving that definition? And let's get into what the topic today. So in California and Florida, there have been several stories of major companies, and I'll just name the companies. I typically don't, but it's in the news, so it's it's common knowledge, at least if you've researched these things. So two of the companies that come to mind are State Farm and Allstate. Huge companies, and there's other companies as well, but huge companies. Specifically in California to start, State Farm and Allstate have made the decision not to renew some policies for customers, and they are no longer accepting new applications for insurance for new homeowners, right? So why are they doing that? I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, what's going on? Why are they doing that? Well, there's a number of reasons why they're doing that. Matter of fact, I'll play this clip from a Wall Street Journal. She did an interview on CBS News about this, and she really kind of breaks down some of the decisions behind this. So let's listen to this clip first, and then I'll get into what some of the additional details from there.
Quite a story. There are thousands of wildfires throughout the state, and now people are thinking, okay, what am I going to do now for insurance? So what does this mean for current State Farm home insurance policyholders in the state of California?
All right, for right now, this is a story that mostly applies to people who want to be State Farm policyholders. It's going to, it's stopping the acceptance of new applications. It says that the current policyholders aren't affected by this, but it is not committing to stick by those for any particular length of time. So, we could learn a year from now or so that it's going to non-renew some of those customers. It will have a big impact in the California market because State Farm is the top seller of home policies in California. It insures about 1 in every 5 homeowners there. That's in line with its status nationally. So if you've got your top players saying they're not going to take new applications, that's definitely going to cause some stress in the market, and agents are going to have to do a lot of scrambling to find other policies to put their put home buyers and other customers into.
Absolutely.
And so, as you heard there, and again, this is a Wall Street Journal reporter who focuses on insurance specifically in the country. So, as you heard, State Farm, and again, there's multiple companies. State Farm is just, obviously the largest, as she said. They insure 1 out of every 5 homes in California, and they have made the decision to no longer keep the coverage for, or excuse me, they've decided to, number one, not take on new applications, and then B, they are considering they will consider not renewing policies for specific homeowners going forward in California. So why are they doing this, right? Because again, you pay, as a homeowner, you pay insurance because number one, they tell you that you need insurance, right? Number two, you obviously want to be able to preserve your home if anything occurs, right? You want to be able to insure damages, or if worst case scenario you lose your home, you want to be able to rebuild, or at least be covered so you can deal with your expenses. So State Farm and Allstate, and there's a few other companies I'll talk about as well, are deciding to drop the coverage in California. Now, why are they doing this? Okay, and so this is, pretty important information, because again, this is almost like a firestorm, because this will have rippling effects across the country. So why are they dropping it? I'm reading here from an article from the San Francisco Examiner, and they've quoted State Farm here. They say, State Farm General Insurance Company has made the decision due to the historic increases in construction cost, the rapid incline of inflation. They also saying there's a growing catastrophe of exposure, and also the challenges in the reassurance market. Now, going back to that line, rapidly growing catastrophe exposure, as we all know that, over the last few years, wildfires have really been in the news, specifically in California. And because of that, the insurance companies have had to pay out billions of dollars because of the losses as a result of wildfires. So they're citing not only the cost in construction, right? Because there's been so much rapid construction around the country. You have, a ton of people looking for policies. But then in addition, you have natural catastrophes like wildfires. You have obviously the threat of earthquakes in California, and all of these other mechanisms, or all of these other factors are being kind of put into this decision to drop coverage. So, again, this has rippling effects. Now, going from California right now, we'll go across the country. That's just one example of insurance companies dropping coverage or not accepting new applications. Now let's go to Florida. So in Florida, right, again, another beautiful place, warm weather. Who doesn't love Florida? That's had the opportunity to be there. Well, in Florida, they're also dropping coverage and also not renewing homeowners. But this is for a totally different thing, right? Now, there's been a history in Florida of companies not insuring certain homes or communities based on, their projections in terms of potential hurricane paths and being close to the water and flood insurance. That's been longstanding. Now you have companies in Florida that are dropping homeowners that are installing solar panels. I know, right? And now again, new technology, solar panels are have been documented to really cut back on electricity costs and help out homeowners. But insurance companies are dropping homeowners who have decided to put panels on their roofs. And why are they deciding to do that, right? Because the insurance companies are saying that, number one, they have no idea of the technology, right? Well, I shouldn't say that. They have no idea that sometimes when a homeowner installs it, that it's even on the roof. That's number one. Number two, they're citing that they're basically out of policy because you're no longer just a customer. You're almost like a business because I don't know if I want to get too technical with the solar energy, but how it's distributed. Basically, you lower the cost. The more people that's on the grid helps to lower the cost in the entire electric cost in the entire community, because basically the company sells the energy back to the electric company. And I'm going too far. So, but in Florida, insurance companies are dropping homeowners that are installing solar panels on their roofs. Matter of fact, let me play this clip from NBC 8 in Tampa. And they actually talked to a homeowner about this. And let's hear directly from them, and then I'll continue from there.
Would have been nice if they would have gone into a little bit more detail. What are we supposed to do? We have to have home insurance. We plan on living here until we croak. This is our retirement home. I'm not moving again.
And the broker basically said, insurance companies won't tell us exactly what criteria they're using, but we're having to rewrite almost all of our policies that have to do with solar, or they're being canceled.
I mean, and this is across Florida, this is happening where homeowners have put solar panels on their roofs, and then the company either A, finds out and drops the coverage, or B, in some cases, they'll tell the customer, don't even bother to put them on because we will not cover you. Again, you pay for insurance because you want to be assured that if something happens, you will be covered. Now, a lot of these companies have various reasons why they're doing this. Number one, they're saying that, especially if you have a roof that's more than 10 years old, that you shouldn't put solar panels on there, that, it's going to, cause the roof damage. Secondly, again, they don't know to what extent the system that's set up, because these systems are expensive. These solar panel systems, I mean, I know people see the solar panels on the roof, but there's a whole power system that has to get installed too. And these power systems are like $60,000, $70,000. That has to be insured. And a lot of times if something goes wrong, that's not, part of the coverage. And so the insurance company's like, well, we don't cover that. And if something goes wrong, we don't want to be liable for it. So we're just not going to cover you at all. So that's what's currently going on in Florida, right? So I'm just giving examples and trying to make people aware. about what's going on with insurance, because I mean, for me, I don't even think about my insurance, right? It's something that I pay on an annual basis and I'm done with it, right? I'm not even thinking in terms of, they would drop me for installing solar panels, right? I had no idea until I did this research. So that's just another example of insurance company. And again, as in Florida, we talking about big companies. I mean, these are not, some small, small companies. I mean, I'm looking here through, did they name the insurance company? They didn't name the insurance company, but again, these are large insurance companies that are making these decisions. Now, they go on to say that, there are a ton of insurance companies in Florida that will insure you. So I don't want people to feel like, okay, I can't get insurance at all. There are a ton of companies that will insure you, but there are also many companies that are not insuring you or canceling your insurance altogether if you have solar panels on your car. I mean, on your home. And then last but not least, insurance is being dropped on car insurance is being dropped on owners of cars. Now, this right here is going to affect everyone, regardless of where you're at, because again, and State Farm again is in the news because State Farm is the largest insurer in the country. So, this is why they keep coming up in this report. But they are not insuring Hondas and Kias, or they're dropping coverage for Hyundais and Kias. They're dropping the coverage for these cars because I'm sure you've seen all of the TikTok and all of the information on Instagram about the TikTok boys. They found a way to be able to steal Hyundais and Kias at a higher rate than other cars. And because of that, you have insurance companies like State Farm, Progressive, major companies that are dropping coverage and saying, we're not covering it because, again, the insurance company, the whole premise around the insurance company is to collect money and never have to pay it out. That's the purpose of insurance, all right, from insurance companies. That's how they make their money, right? They invest the money and do other things, but how they make money is they take premiums from you and I, and they stack that money up. And then if a claim comes out, they're able to pay it out. Well, if they're paying out too many claims, that's messing with the pie in the back, and that's not good for them. It's not good for business, and so they're making these decisions not to keep coverage on cars, specifically on Hyundais and Kias. Now, what do you do in the case of your insurance being dropped, or if you cannot get insurance on your home or on your car, right? Because we talked about the issues, so let's talk about what can be done. Well, first thing you want to do is, of course, you need to communicate with your insurance company. Now, if your insurance company decides to drop you, they are required to give you at least a notice of 30 to 45, give you a notice 30 to 45 days in advance, right? They just can't call you and say, well, tomorrow you have no coverage. They have to give you notification, right? And if you don't receive that notification, of course, you can then go through the proper channels to escalate that to ensure that you have coverage. And that gives you enough time, or tries to give you enough time to find another carrier. So that's the first thing you could do. Second thing you need to do immediately after you notified, start shopping for new insurance. And again, it's smart to always do comparisons because, like any other business, you might find a company that's a little bit more budget friendly, or a little bit more supportive of your needs, right? You may need a certain level of coverage, and you have to do your shopping. So the next thing you want to do after you get canceled, after you get notice of cancellation or non-renewal, or if a company just says they're not going to insure you, you need to start shopping for insurance. The next thing you should do, of course, is look into non-standard policies. Now, as I said, in California and in Florida, and even with your car insurance, There are always insurance companies. There are thousands of insurance companies out here. I mean, again, I talked about State Farm, Progressive, and Allstate because those are the major players. Those are the ones that everyone knows from the commercials, obviously, and you may have, one of those carriers yourself. But there are always other insurance companies out here. So you want to do your due diligence to really shop around to find out what can be done. Now, in the event that you shopped around and you're like, I can't find anything, there is something called the Fair Access to Insurance requirement. And this is a state-ran insurance program. And this is in all 50 states. There's some form of it in all 50 states that you can get insured through. Now, I will be the first to tell you that it's not cheap. This is expensive insurance, right? And really, it should be used as kind of an in-between, right? It shouldn't be, utilized for, long periods of time. And again, this information comes from the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, and they talk about the fair plan, which is called the Fair Access to Insurance requirements. And I'm reading directly from their site. It says all states in the United States have some form of fair plan, although the specific structure and regulations vary state by state. All states do have it. The states that have their own fair plans, and these are states that have their own plans, that's California, Florida, Hawaii, New York, and North Carolina, among others. Additionally, some states have residual market mechanisms such as assigned risks, which serve a similar purpose as fair plans. And again, fair plans are for if you get to the point where there is nothing else you can do, right? You've called every carrier, or for whatever reason, they don't qualify or you don't qualify. The last resort is that you can, request to be under the Fair Access to Insurance requirements, which is called the FAIR Plan. And again, this is a state mandated property insurance plan. And let me just say that not car insurance, these are for homeowners insurance. This is for homeowners insurance. These are state mandated property insurance plans that provide coverage to individuals and businesses who are unable to obtain insurance in their regular market. And again, these are for those extreme situations where you have the California wildfires, or down in Florida, you may not be able to get coverage depending on where you live, too close to the water, hurricane path, things of that nature. So there are some mechanisms in place to help make sure that you are insured, but you need to do your research if you find yourself in that predicament. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, guys. I see these stories and I say, man, I got to get this out to the people, because again, not that I didn't know that you could not, I knew that you could be dropped by your insurance company. Did not know about the solar, and I've been considering getting solar. So that was a light bulb for me. And then in terms of California and Florida, dropping coverage because of exposure to natural disasters and construction costs, or at least not being able to get coverage because a lot of those companies are not handing out new plans anymore. I thought that was good information, so I wanted to get it out. But as always, if this information was enlightening, please feel free again to share that information. You can also leave a comment on our social media platform. You can reach me at I am Trey Evans on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You could also reach us at the People's Voice Podcast. That's the Instagram page. You can also reach me at Trey Evans on LinkedIn. A lot of you have connected there, so I appreciate it, and I've appreciated the dialogue. And also, as always, feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you can share that information and be notified when we put out a new episode. So that is my time for today. As always, Dreams are not just for sleeping. Please wake up and live your dreams. My name is Trey Evans, the people's voice. Tell somebody about the dream. Salute.
I am Trey Evans.
The people's voice.